What's going on, everyone? I hope you guys are ready because tomorrow is set to be the most important day that we've seen in the market all month. We have some huge data set to release, and we're starting to see some big moves already happen. So make sure to stick with us all the way to the end of today's video. We have some awesome setups for tomorrow, and towards the end of the video, we have a big money trade you won't want to miss. But with that being said, Tom, let's jump right into it.
Yeah, that market today was insane. We ended up falling back off to the downside at market open, which ended up making for some good day trades early on. I know there was a lot of momentum and there was a lot of people out there who profited on some puts. And if you guys ended up getting into some of these plays to the downside, definitely let us know in the comments because we talked about a lot of them the past few days, like AMD, Meta, and a couple others. Mike, you specifically talked about Meta yesterday falling under 310, and that was a perfect move today. Had a nice continuation all the way down to 303. So there's a lot of opportunities. There'll be a lot more plays like this throughout the video. But firstly, Mike, I wanted to go over Disney earnings here. They are taking a pretty bad tumble in after hours. And to be honest with you, I'm not very surprised. You know, they've had a rough past couple quarters, and if we actually go into the earnings here, we can see that it hit them on revenue. They came in at a slight miss there, $22.33 billion versus $22.5 billion expected. The EPS did beat ever so slightly, but the bad thing was those Disney Plus subscriber numbers coming in at 146.1 million versus an expectation of 151.1 million there. So that's a pretty bad miss whenever you're talking about missing by about 6 million there on that expectation. It's never good. And Disney Plus is just such a big part of their company now that they really needed those numbers to come in. And there were a few things that caused this, like Disney Plus Hotstar lost the rights to the Indian Premier League matches in soccer. So that was obviously a big deal, but it's just negative. You know, they've had a lot of negative news with their politics too, and just a lot of negative, I would say, aoras around them lately.
You know, the mouse gets hit again, Tom. You know, they really needed this earnings to be good, to like start to get that positive momentum flowing back into their stock, but it was just like another hit. And I'll tell you, like, it's pretty demoralizing seeing their Disney Plus subscribers come in a decent amount under expectations. You know, their Disney Plus subscribers are down 7.4% from the previous quarter. That is a decent hit, and it's just not good to see. Now, I do own Disney for the long term, and because it's a long-term play, I'm going to keep holding it. But if you're a short-term trader, obviously this is not something you want to see, and, you know, maybe their conference call will be better, but they just need something to get this stock moving like they were, you know, back in 2020.
Yeah, they really do. And I think Iger will turn this company around as he starts to make it better. And there is a pretty big support down here around like $84 that I'll still be keeping an eye on. This 84 to 85 area is huge. If they end up running down under there, though, they'll be breaking like lows of the past few years. So that'll be a big area to keep your eyes on over the next few days, especially if you're looking at them to the downside. And I'm with you, Mike. I'm also holding them for the long term. And I think that they'll end up doing pretty well. You know, there's not many other companies out there like them, and you just, you know, they have the parks, and then you obviously can't replace Mickey Mouse, and they have patents on all these big things too.
Yep, so either way, keep a very close eye on this one for tomorrow. Disney's one of those stocks that does have the potential to turn around, but honestly, it'll need some pretty good news. So either way, keep a close eye on it. But Tom, as you mentioned, Disney owning a bunch of what we'll call stuff, they actually also own ESPN, and ESPN out of nowhere signed a deal with Penn Entertainment, the company that used to own Barstool, but they actually just gave it right back to Dave Portnoy, so never mind about that. Literally gave it right back to him for $0. But either way, Penn is booming right now to the upside. As of yesterday, you know, they got a deal with ESPN, and now Penn is going to they're going to rebrand their sports betting app to ESPN Bet, which is really cool. Penn is paying ESPN $1.5 billion in cash over 10 years, though, and they're also granting them $500 million worth of, you know, basically warrants to buy stocks in Penn. So either way, this is a pretty big deal. Penn stock was running, and, you know, we got a new rebranded sports betting app coming onto the market.
Yeah, we do. And I'll say I actually am pretty upset by this, Mike. And I know a lot of our viewers out there are going to say, well, what about DraftKings, right? And we go look at DraftKings, and they are actually falling off in an insane way because of this news. Of course, this came out yesterday, like 30 minutes after we made the video last night, or else we would have talked about it yesterday too. But DraftKings had that big drop down. Obviously, Penn's going up. I will say, Mike, I ended up buying some Penn as it started to rise here. I do think that ESPN Bet will go over pretty well. I'm a huge fan of ESPN. I actually use them for fantasy and all that type of stuff. And at the end of the day, they're going to make Penn, in my opinion, a lot more money than like Dave Portnoy or anybody like that would have. So I'm glad to see him go with Penn, although I wish they would have picked DraftKings. I will say that makes me a little bit sad. Part of my reason for owning DraftKings was actually that ESPN hope. But obviously, you know, it was all speculation, and it looks like they didn't get the deal. But keep in mind, DraftKings is still expecting profitability next year, even without the ESPN deal. That just would have been like an added cherry on top. I think they'll be just fine, though, over the long term.
For sure. So I own DraftKings and now Penn as well. Jumping back to Penn, you know, Tom, if we go to like a max weekly chart or just like really start to zoom out on the daily, I actually think this stock's at a great level, and I think the risk reward is really good over the next couple years. Is it guaranteed to go up? Hell no, nothing is. But when you have Penn at $27.20 right now, its all-time highs were around 140 back in like the early months of 2021. And you have this great news coming out, you know, solid industry as well, and among many other things. I think the risk reward ratio is really great. I actually bought some leaps on Penn today, and I'm just holding for a while. So we'll see what happens, but you know, this is big news, and I'll tell you, you don't see news like this every week.
Yeah, you really don't. And what I really liked about Penn is that even though it popped up in after hours and it's running, you know, it ended the day up 9%. I'm just glad that it's not up like 50% or anything like that. Like whenever you zoom out, it's still very, very low in retrospect, like you said. So I do like them for the longer term as well. And they also own like, you know, a lot of hotels, casinos, and stuff like that, even despite the sports betting. So I like Penn. I think they'll be pretty good for the long term as well. And, you know, sports betting in general is starting to grow. So DraftKings, Penn, FanDuel, like all of those companies should start to benefit. You know, we're getting more states starting to legalize year after year, and there's just more legislation going through too. So, you know, the more states that legalize, especially the bigger ones like California, Texas, and a couple more, if they legalize, that's just going to bring in so much more revenue for some of these companies. And Penn should be able to take advantage there now in that market, given this deal. I think ESPN Bet will help them a lot.
Yeah, and betting and sports betting have been around for forever, and I got some news for you. It's never going away. It's just becoming more easy to place bets as, you know, mobile sports betting takes over in many states already, but many more states and countries to come in the future. So I'm pretty excited about the industry overall, but, you know, good stuff there. Keep a close eye on DraftKings, Penn, and even Disney because they do own ESPN. But, Tom, tomorrow is the most important day easily of the entire week because we have some crucial inflation data set to release tomorrow 1 hour before open. But this inflation report is like no other inflation report that we've seen in a while. Why is that? Because inflation is actually expected to come in higher than it did in the past report. This is the first time we've actually ever seen like an uptick in inflation in a while. So like basically at the last report, inflation came in at 3%, and now it's expected to come in at 3.1 to 3.3%. And just looking at the chart right there, inflation's just been decreasing and decreasing and decreasing for well over a year now. So I'll tell you, this is definitely not good to see, and you know, it's definitely a change of pace.
Yeah, it is. It's never good to see inflation going up, and the market in the past has been usually pretty scared by some of these upticks in inflation. And what I'm worried about, Mike, is like they're obviously expecting a slight uptick, right? Like 3.3% on the consensus, 3.1% on the forecast. I'm actually a little bit worried. Like, what if it comes in even higher than they're expecting? It could maybe surprise them and uptick a little bit more. Now, I know they're usually pretty accurate on those numbers, but like, let's say that is the case. that could spark a lot of selling. And we've already been seeing a lot of selling the past couple days. And I don't know about you, Mike, but there was a big sell-off heading into close today, and I took that as like a lot of traders starting to take profits, and I think a lot of traders are fearful of this event in the morning, so there's going to be a lot of eyes on it. If I were you guys, I would set your alarm clocks an hour early tomorrow. We'll be up in the Discord. Check out the link down below. I know I'll definitely be there.
Exactly. So, Tom, do me a favor and go to maybe a 30-minute or 1 hour chart on SPY and just let it sit there for a second, right? You zoom out a little bit. You can basically see that since the end of July, the market has been, of course, very different than what we've seen all year long, but bears are getting more and more in control. So, basically, what I'm trying to say is we've been in a decent sell-off for the past couple of weeks, and that's not something you want to see heading into an inflation reading where the data is expected to come in higher for basically the first time in well over a year. So this is not a good setup, and I'll say this, if the inflation data comes in at 3.4% or 3.5 or 3.6 or anything like that, buckle up, we'll be in for a ride. So this data will be so important tomorrow. It doesn't hurt to get up an hour early tomorrow morning to check out that inflation reading because it will be very important.
Yeah, it's going to be the biggest event of the week, like Mike said there. And one thing to keep in mind, too, is, the SPY is going down here, and there's going to be a big level to watch tomorrow as this event unfolds, and that is this big 444 support on SPY. There's been a ton of bounces on this level this year as it's been recovering back up. So I will be watching that as we pull back here. If we end up gapping down under this with the event, that could maybe also spark some good selling, and I'll target 440 if we do end up breaking that. But I figured I'd mention that support because it is the it is the largest level that I've been watching here the past few weeks as we've been pulling back to the downside.
Good stuff. And Tom, let's just run through 3 stocks very quickly that people can look to trade when the market tanks. So basically, when SPY's tanking, you can trade SPXS. This rises when the market goes down. You could also trade UVXY. This also rises when volatility and fear sets in. And you could even go for SQQQ. Also pops up when people are scared and the market's tanking. So keep a close eye on those 3 stocks. They make a lot of people a lot of money when the market's falling, but of course when the market's rising, they also take a lot of people's money. So keep a close eye on them going forward. But Tom, let's get right into some setups for tomorrow. And one stock I'm watching very closely is Penn. Basically looking at Penn right now, they had a lot of hype in after hours yesterday, and they tried to run up today for a little bit, but they just got rejected. If they can rip right above the $28.50 level, I think they can have a move to the upside. Now ideally, if we do see Penn go up, it would be nice to see the market and other stocks rising as well, but either way, keep that $28.50 level in mind. I think it will be pretty crucial.
I do too, and Penn's just had so much volatility lately, and we've seen this happen a few times, where stocks fly up a lot with events like this and with earnings, and they actually did report earnings as well, and I do think that they could have a nice continuation as tomorrow goes on in the next few days, so keep them on the radar. I do like that one as well, Mike, and yesterday I actually talked about Tesla, and I talked about them to the upside and the downside, actually, but they ended up falling down under 250 and 248, which was pretty brutal there. So if they actually fall under this big 240 support that I've been watching on them, I'll be looking for even more puts to the downside. I know I'm going to get some flack. It's Tesla. People love it. But then again, you have to trade everything up and down accordingly. The market never just always goes up. And I will say, puts can make you a lot of money if you time them right, too. So watch that 240 support down there. If we see a break, I'll definitely be watching it. These tech stocks like Tesla have been brutal lately.
The market doesn't just only go up, Tom. You're shattering my dreams. What are you talking about? That's the only reason I trade stocks. Seriously, come on. No, I'm kidding. But either way, yeah, great stuff there, Tom. You've been pretty hot with those Tesla plays lately. Another stock I'm watching is actually somewhat similar to this one in the sense that it's a big tech stock, and that is NVIDIA. So basically, NVIDIA is pretty weak right now. It tanked down a decent amount today, and I'm watching it for a further move to the downside. If it breaks below at $420 support, this thing can run even further down, but when this thing's tanking, like it normally moves with some power.
Like, oh my gosh, Mike, that movement to the downside today at open on NVIDIA was just insane. So I love it for tomorrow too. There's been so much downward movement on these tech stocks, even like Apple and Microsoft. Like, look at those moves today at open. They were just kind of nasty, to be honest. But with my next stock, it's another nasty mover, and it's kind of going with your pen play a little bit, but it's DraftKings. I think that DraftKings could actually see some downwards momentum here in the short term, and I think that there's an opportunity here. There's a pretty big support around $27 on DraftKings. If we break under 28 tomorrow, I'll be looking just for like a nice 1 point pop down to that support. I think that they've been up a lot the past 3 to 4 months. If we look at like that hourly chart, they've done nothing but go up, honestly, since the beginning of the year. So I'll definitely be watching them for a test of that support. That news with Penn was obviously I'm not going to say like a nail in the coffin, Mike, but it's definitely worrying to see that start to come in there.
Yeah, it hurts, but, like you said, not the nail in the coffin by any means. Would the deal have been nice? Of course, but at the same time, I do know that DraftKings and ESPN have been trying to make a deal work for a long time, and clearly they couldn't make it work. So maybe ESPN was asking too much from DraftKings, and maybe in hindsight it was smarter that they didn't take the deal. Because if you don't like the price and you can't make terms work, then sometimes that's just how it is.
Yeah, that's a good point, too. I didn't actually think of it that way, Mike. That's actually a smart way to think about it. And, with DraftKings having so much flack lately, throwing money out the window and stuff, I'm sure I'm sure somebody out there would have, who was it? Hindenburg? They would have made another report. They spent too much on them now.
Right, exactly. Like, I'd rather have DraftKings keep rocking and rolling, focusing on themselves and, focusing on that profitability goal the most, rather than trying to, force a bad deal just because it's ESPN. But either way, we'll see how things go. I'm going to follow DraftKings, Disney, and Penn all very closely going forward. But if you guys are looking for the best way to capitalize off the current markets movement, you got to check out that first link in the description and the comments down below. Today's bot play was awesome. So basically, our sniper bot called out the NVIDIA $437.50 put option, alerted at $735 each. And you won't believe this, but it actually rose all the way up to $1,765 at its high point. So if you decide to get in on the premium program, not only will you get access to sniper bot alerts, we will also get access to alerts from our hybrid bot, our SM bot, a bunch of other custom bots that we have to show you and tell you about, multi-million-dollar hedge fund trades on a daily basis, a bunch of other tools, and you can talk with Tom and myself all day long. We spend so much time in the Discord, so if you ever want to chat, if you need help, you have any questions, we're always right there. Best, I guess, a great thing to know is that if for whatever reason you wanted to cancel, you can cancel it anytime, no problem. So definitely check it out. It's that first link in the description and the comments down below. But with that being said, Tom, let's jump right into the momentum plays for tomorrow. With the first one, we have GLD to the upside.
Yeah, GLD actually had a pretty sad move today, I'll say. That was a pretty bad drop, but tomorrow, if we do see some craziness with CPI, keep your eyes on this. If they get back above the 178 area resistance, I will definitely be eyeing up some calls. That CPI data in the morning will be very important for GLD.
Alrighty, and with the next one, we have AMD to the downside.
AMD, yeah, they are actually falling off in a big way, just like NVIDIA. And if they get under this big 110 support, definitely look at puts for tomorrow. If we go over to the book map, which is pretty much like X-ray vision, you can see that this morning there was a huge stack of buyers at 110, and that ended up breaking. Now there's a lot around down here around 109. So really watch that 110 area again, and then 109. We could see a lot of buyers around those levels, but I will say that's a big support, and if we break it, there could definitely be more downwards movement.
Alrighty, and then with the last one, we have Palantir for both directions.
PLTR, yeah, go ahead and make them break under $15 even. That is a huge support on Palantir as well. I've been watching that area on them actually for the past few months as they've been rising, but if they break under 15, watch for puts. If they end up breaking above that intraday resistance right around $15.70, then go ahead and look at calls.
All right, so we have that upside level for calls, downside level for puts on Palantir. Don't forget about AMD with the downside level on that one. And then don't forget about GLD with the upside level on that one as well. But it is now time for the big money $732,000 trade of the day, and we are looking at TMV. Basically, someone dumped $732,000 into the TMV 100 strike calls that expire on November 17th of 2023. Basically, TMV is an ETF that follows treasuries. The higher this goes, the more rates are rising. So given that we have inflation data tomorrow, if the inflation data comes in hot, treasury rates can rise a lot more if the data comes in hot. And, if that's the case, this play can do very well. So keep a close eye on it going forward. I think it's very good timing on it in the sense of the fact that it is right before the inflation data release. But I will say, I don't think you have to go this deep in the money on the calls. If you did want to play calls on it, you can get closer to the money. And honestly, you could probably even get less time if you really wanted to.
Yeah, like tomorrow's going to be a pretty big event. So like I would think that heading into the end of the year, I could see this going up a little bit more too, especially like if inflation starts upticking more and stuff like that. It's going to make the feds have to keep raising rates more. They keep talking about doing that more into the end of this year. And who knows, maybe even the percentages will start to change for next year, even if we start to see this data come in a little bit too hot. But the feds are going to get 2 CPI readings tomorrow and then another one before their next meeting. We'll talk about it obviously in a month or so, but it's going to be fun, Mike. These plays on yields and rates are always fun in my opinion. TMV, TLT, stuff like that I like. I do like TLT to the upside still for like the longer term, but in the short term though, it's been kind of taking a hit here lately.
No doubt about that. All right, Tom. Well, tomorrow is the big day. Of course, that inflation data will be super exciting. It's right before open, so we should see some awesome moves. Do you have any final thoughts or anything else you're looking at?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be nuts. I hope that it doesn't come in too hot. It's going to be a big, big event in the morning. Wake up an hour early. Don't forget to check out the link down below for the Discord. I will be in there for sure. We'll have a bunch of guys in there talking about the event, so it'll be a fun time in the morning, Mike. And I'm sure that the account will look crazy. There's going to be probably a lot of big moves tomorrow.
Tom, and you're holding one thing out on us. I think you know what it is. Cough it up.
Oh, the earnings for the rest of the week. Yeah, the earnings here. There's not much. So tomorrow morning, we got Alibaba and then the almighty U.S. Foods. I mean, I don't think you can get a more interesting stock than U.S. Foods. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, really nothing for the rest of the week besides Baba. So Baba is pretty fun, though, Mike. I'll give it that. Big China stock.
Alrighty, good stuff. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. We're pumped up for tomorrow. We should see some awesome moves. Join that Discord. The bots have been doing very great this week, and you get access to a bunch of other stuff. So join up, join the community, talk with Tom and myself all day long. And I want to give a huge shout out to today's member of the day, BDizzle11. He crushed it today on the bot plays and even yesterday too. So awesome job, BDizzle. Keep up that great work and keep posting those profits, baby. Let's go. Besides that, thank you guys so much for watching, and let's have an awesome day in the market tomorrow.